Welcome to the Divine Insight Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so thrilled to have an incredible guest with me who I'm introducing today with you, wherever and whenever you're joining. Thank you so much for being here. It's no accident that you're here. And with me today is wellness healer and teacher, Jay. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you with me today to talk about your incredible work and your incredible journey, and so let's just kind of dive right into it. You're originally born in Canada, but you now live and work out of LA. What brought you from Canada down to the US in the first place?
How much time do you have? Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is beautiful. It's on Lake Superior. But at 17, I was like, I'm out of here, and moved to Toronto for 20 years.
Okay.
And then, Toronto was a really great home for a while. And then I was just called to get to the US. It's like as a kid, I always knew I wanted to be in the US for whatever reason.
With an intuition or this
Exactly.
knowing, or like I want to be, okay.
Yeah, similar to your recent move, right? The synchronicities and the messages all told me. So I moved to New York for almost 3 years.
Because you were on the East Coast, right?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So New York made more sense. But then obviously now LA for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far you want me to go into that actual journey.
Well, I think what was really resonating with me, and I think what a lot of people, can relate to, are the things, the experiences that we have that lead us along our path to wellness.
Yeah.
And I know that, you've shared a lot about your story, both in your book and also you're pretty open about that, I think, in the work that you do as well. And I think that kind of vulnerability, people really it helps people know that they're not alone, and the experiences that they have, there's nothing to feel shame or guilt about that. And that, in fact, when we can feel the safety enough to be honest and open and share our pain and our experiences, other people feel like they can do that as well. And I think that's such an important part of your story that I wanted to kind of share some of that with our viewers and listeners. In particular, what caught me about your story was the bullying that you experienced as a kid growing up, and the torment and all of that, and how at the early age of your early 20s, that really kind of led you into your sort of emotional and spiritual expansion or growth or journeys. Can you share just a bit about that story and what was that? How was that for you?
Yeah, well, I have this whole message now that our pain is our power, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
And at 50, I'm like finally getting it that, oh my God, yeah, it's actually my power. Okay, it took me a while. And it's only really recent that I got really vulnerable with my story. It was scary. It's scary to share my shame and my, humiliation with the world. But then as soon as I started to, it's amazing how many people have reached out, right?
Yeah.
To say, oh my God, I had the same story, and thank you so much for being so vulnerable. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's good. It's safe, but it's still scary. So, yeah, I mean, I just did a post recently on my social media about bullying.
Yeah.
And I as I was writing it, I didn't even really realize the extent until I wrote it. And it started in kindergarten. I mean, literally started walking to kindergarten with this older, tough woman who would taunt me and threaten me day after day. Tried to tell my parents, and they kind of acknowledged and let it go, And it started this story that there's something wrong with me. And then that continued all the way through high school, to the point of, getting beat up at parties and threatened after school that I'm going to be killed and beat up. Dead animals in my mailbox, and calls to my mom. And I growing up as a gay kid in small town Canada at that time, there was a lot of shame, a lot of discomfort around who I was. So I just started to put up walls, wall after wall after wall. But deep down, I knew that I deserved to feel good. There was that spark, right, that we all have. And that's where the journey began, reading self-help books and just realizing I'm more than my heaviness.
Yeah, and what I really related to that a lot in my own experience, I grew up in Eastern Washington, and I didn't really know I was gay. I had a couple of unusual things that happened in high school for people, and I later learned that my first girlfriend, Missy, her mom called my mom in 1984 at the age of like 12 after we broke up, and I was devastated.
Oh, Missy.
It's terrible, Missy.
If you're listening.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're good now.
Okay.
But, and she went back to this jerk Russell. No, just kidding. Actually, it was true, Russell. But my point is, her mom called my mom and told her that I was gay. And my mom was really upset about that. You know, she was offended. And, you know, my own growth around having some shame and guilt around my own sexual orientation related a lot to the way in which my mom responded to it. You know, and I wasn't willing to accept that for some time. I wasn't willing to think of my mom as less than perfect, you know, and the projection of that and how that affected me wasn't something I was even able to deal with until my 30s.
Yeah.
But I think, and I appreciate your, you know, what happened. We're kind of in the similar generation, you know, and we didn't have the internet growing up. Did you know you were gay? When did you first realize that?
Yeah, I realized, well, at 4, I had some early sexual experiences with, you know, a neighbor, and it was like, I don't know, it just felt right to me. So I guess I knew early on. I know, I'm being super open here. You could edit that if you want. But definitely by like 13, 14, I knew.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I think also, though, I didn't experience the level of harassment and bullying that you did. So I'm really sorry about that, one. But two, what was so sort of compelling about learning about you, and why part of why I wanted to have you on the show, is just that your growth and expansion and healing work is so powerful for people. I haven't had anybody on the show that does what you do, so I wanted to kind of talk about that in particular. But I also think it's very interesting that, you know, we don't always have the end goal in mind when we step into our intuitive paths. And like, as I talk about often in career paths, every step is like that golden brick, right? And so it's not that we need to know necessarily the end piece, but that we can, if we see the one right in front of us, we just take that one step. And you've been everything from an actor, a model, a fitness trainer,
massage therapist,
hypnotherapist, caterer. So all of that. And it's like, so, but now, you know, so how did you get to the point of doing this breath work? Why was it the breath work, do you think, that truly opened up this desire to like expand further? What was it about that?
Awesome question. I have been searching, and I kept moving on from career to career because I didn't feel completely fulfilled. And it was so frustrating for me because I'd be like, what am I here for? You know, isn't there one thing that people find their calling at a really young age?
Yeah.
And they just like, some people, not everybody. I wanted to be that person, you know?
Yeah.
So I tried numerous things and, you know, had success at each one to some degree. But there was a longing for, like, you know, that burning desire, that mission,
well, I call it when the soul sings.
Yeah.
Right? What sings to my soul?
Right. And I have to say, 3 years ago, I went to a small men's group for breath work. Had the most profound.
Was that here in LA?
It was in LA.
Okay.
The most profound experience of my life.
Wow.
Seriously. And I've done a lot of healing on myself and a lot of modalities. And it was almost like, oh my God, I found it. I was hooked. And so I did a lot of breath work for myself. I studied with a couple of great teachers, and I just knew this was actually my purpose and my passion.
Yeah. So you landed in that intuition. And I think what's so great about that for people who are watching and listening is that you really do know what sings to your soul. If you're honest with yourself about how you're experiencing your work and whether or not it sings to you, you really know. And if it doesn't sing to you, then it's time to search for something that does. And even if you don't know, I often tell people, you know, you don't have to know, just be open to what something else might look like in your life. We often project an image of what we think we would be interested in that has a little bit to nothing to do with what might actually sing to us if we were totally open about it with ourselves. So I think, you know, your story about, you know, having that inner knowledge of what really calls to you, I think is what's so important for people to understand. But also, so let's talk about breath work a little bit, because, you know, we all have our different understandings of how it is that the mind and the consciousness work with the body.
Yes.
What does breath work do to support health and wellness?
Yeah, well, why I love it so much is because there are very, very positive physical benefits. As a health coach for many years,
Right.
you know, I'm all about anti-aging, youthful aging, feeling good, looking good. And breathwork has the physical modality that helps to detox the body, helps to feed your digestion, your brain function. It can release physical pain in the body, promotes much better immunity. So those are some really amazing physical effects. But what is most exciting for me is this whole emotional component of breathwork. And that's what I had my very first experience. It was like I released a lifetime of grief in one session, in 1 hour. Crazy. How is that even possible?
Yeah, exactly.
I went through all of these emotions and these feelings, and it's so exciting because I believe they're permanent shifts. It rewires the brain. You may know, but it releases a lot of healthy and helpful chemicals. DMT, with his, a lot of people take DMT to have out-of-body experiences. But it's in our lung tissue, so as we breathe, you release that. And therapy is great, but like, there's nothing like actually feeling a shift energetically, right? Like understanding where your pain lies, your energetic pain, and then being able to feel it move, shift. You can't talk your way through that. So that's what I love about the emotional benefits. A lot of people will feel a great amount of joy, gratitude, so much unconditional love for themselves and for others. And then spiritually, also super exciting is the whole idea of chakras. I've read about them, I talked about them, I've played with them, but I never really felt them, you know, until I did breath work. And suddenly my chakras, especially my sacral, you know, on the navel, solar plexus, the heart, I began to feel them spin and throb and pulsate. And I just knew there was something so magical going on in those chakras that I needed healing for. So it's a body, mind, and spirit healing. It's so powerful.
Yeah, I think that's so great because it's so, you know, coalesces a lot of our understanding. I've had a lot of psychologists on the show. I've had a lot of spiritualists. I've had a lot of people doing various levels of work. And, you know, I've had people, you know, as a Reiki master yourself, you know how the benefits of releasing stagnant energy of the body work, right? But what can happen is that we can have a mind lock around what we think is going on, but the body has its own wisdom and its own knowledge and its own freedom. So what I love about the breath work, and I'm brand new to the process of breath work. I've only gone to one class.
Okay, good. You get the money.
Definitely, sign me up. But what we recognize is that the body holds trauma. The body holds it, and whether that's emotional trauma, physical trauma, even spiritual trauma, which I've seen doing energy work and soul level work, our body has a recollection, has a muscle memory, has an etheric muscle memory of these traumas that have occurred even over lifetimes. And so the power of being open to how that might, how we can access sort of greater freedom and love and expansion and healing is so powerful about the work that you do. And so what else would you like to share about, you know, breath work in particular, or how it works maybe? Can you, I don't know if you do even a light demonstration?
Absolutely. I mean, there's hundreds of styles of breath work, right? It's becoming, I mean, obviously not new. It's based on pranayama, which is all, you know, thousands of years old. But it's making a resurgence because
pranayama, for folks who are listening but may not have heard of that.
It's based on yoga from the Indian traditions, and it's just this formal breathing practice essentially, and it basically means life force, and you know, we're bringing in energy. In the breath in Latin is spiritum. So it's all
interesting.
It's spirit. It's basically spirit.
That's awesome.
But it's making a resurgence now because we need it more than ever. The world, you know, people are really stressed, but they're also ready for some big changes. And they're ready to do the work, I think. So I don't even like the term breath work, right? Who wants to work?
Well, we have this assumption that work is hard. Work, you know, with all of our belief systems around, I have to work and things have to be difficult in order for me to get a benefit. And I think that's a very important and okay to break that belief if it actually isn't true.
But I will say, and I always say in my classes and with private clients, like the first 3 to 4 minutes feels like work, right? Especially if you're tired or you're numb. You know, we've all checked out a little. We're all a little bit numb sometimes. So when you do the breathing for the first few minutes, it might feel like work. It's like, I don't want to be doing this today. But if you just get through that little block, our body starts to breathe itself. So the breath that I teach is a 2-part breath, 2 inhales and 1 exhale. I think you maybe did this breath at one of your classes, right?
Possibly.
So we're lying on a mat or on a nice massage table.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, ideally nice little mask around our eyes, relaxing,
relax the face.
and it's relax the face. And it's 2 inhales and 1 exhale. It's all in and out of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing an inhale in the belly, chest,
mm-hmm.
and out. Or you could look at it like half inhale in the belly.
Oh, got it.
Half here.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes this circular.
Oh, got it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
A nice circular breath. We do it to music. We do some yells.
Ooh, beautiful pace.
This whole yelling, screaming. I use a drum. It's, you know, it's a wonderful way to release any stress, any anger, any sadness. It's a great way to access more
tribal. There's this pace to it, right?
It really is tribal.
You know, at our core is that connection to Earth, to our collective consciousness, to the beat of the pulse, right? And so I'm actually feeling like I'm getting tingles right now, in part because I think that hits on a core truth of our spiritual nature.
Yeah.
Is that we have separated ourselves from that nature for long enough, and it's time to come back.
Yeah, and I always say most of us are living from here up, you know?
Yeah.
We're not really taking deep breaths, we're not really engaging, and so that's where a lot of the issues come.
Yeah.
Anxiety, depression.
Well, and people suffering from various forms of mental health issues, in particular myself, PTSD, birth trauma was a birth death. I suffocated and died and then was essentially resuscitated. So when I get stressed or feel it, all of a sudden my breath stops. I will stop breathing, and I can hold my breath out for several minutes, not even noticing that I'm not breathing. And so just like people assume that I'm annoyed at times because I might naturally just take a deep breath and people think I'm sighing, but it's really no, it's just me like, oh my gosh, I've stopped breathing several times. And when we have awareness of the breath, we can actually become more aware of how we're actually feeling.
So true.
Which is that greater awareness. I was also interested because you incorporated the Hawaiian practice of the Ho'oponopono into your breath work, which is forgiveness, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk a bit about how that works and how that?
Yeah, I love Ho'oponopono. I learned it many, many years ago, and it was powerful then. But then when I started to do breath work, you know, my heart was so open, and the words of Ho'oponopono just resonated more deeply. I started to bring them together. And the words of Ho'oponopono, it's 4 phrases. It's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you. I would say 4 of the most powerful words or phrases in the world.
Well, energetically, absolutely.
Yeah. And so
forgiveness.
Forgiveness, right. And the idea with Ho'oponopono is that we take responsibility for everything in our life. Even the traumas and even the difficult times. And I understand that's sometimes tough when somebody's hurt us, right?
Controversial because oftentimes when we experience the story of our experiences as happening to us, then we lose our power. But when we experience it as it truly is that we, in some sense, created that experience because we wanted to learn and grow as a soul in some meaningful way. And this was exactly what we knew would make us get there quicker, in my opinion. So then at that point, when we have that truth come to us, we can then understand why we created that experience, and also it gives us greater access to how to release the trauma from that experience.
Beautifully said, and that's exactly it. If we can even find 2% ownership, you know, maybe on a soul level we brought it in. We don't need to understand why we had this incident or this person come in. And when we say, I'm sorry for my part in this, you know, it suddenly cuts the cord, that pull to that person in the situation. And saying I love you. And I always say in class, if you can't say I love you, I get it, you can say I send you love. You know, it's like a little more gentle.
I agree. It's like when I tell people, when I'm looking at someone who has 0 self-love, and if the example is we're at the bottom of the stairs, we want the top to be 100% unconditional self-love, maybe we can go to neutrality first. Maybe we can say, I don't deserve pain anymore. But one of the things that resonated with me as you were talking is that you had that experience with the breath work, which was the release of all of the stuff. I talk about this a bit, but I was going running in Seattle one time and I was not feeling good. There was something going on, and I was just running, and all of a sudden I had this awareness and desire to forgive myself. But I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was even forgiving myself or what I was forgiving myself for. So I asked myself, what do I forgive myself for? I started crying, and I was like, what the F is going on here? I'm not a crier generally. Like, and then all of a sudden it was like, I felt this desire to forgive myself for everything that I had ever done, which had caused me harm in my patterns of addiction, my relationships that I had created that caused me harm, that people didn't love me the way I deserved. And that was a pattern that I had experienced even into my early 40s. So that's why, I mean, that's part of why I think it's so important to incorporate the work that you're doing into our lives, is because I just loved what you do and how it works. And so
I love that you said that, because in class I guide people to do a lot of self-love and forgiveness with Ho'oponopono for themselves currently, and then their inner child, you know, that kid that just needs our love. And I have them put in their own words, like, please forgive me for, you know. They just list off all the different things.
That's great.
Yeah, I love it. And it kind of cleanses the energy. We say in Ho'oponopono that it brings you to a point of zero. So there's no polar energy anymore, you know. It's just kind of a cleaning. You're cleaning with the words, and so there's kind of a zero state, just which is like bliss or presence or peace.
Even neutrality is freedom.
Or neutrality. Yeah, absolutely.
And you also, I want to talk about the chakra balms that you create as well, because I think they're really powerful. I love essential oils, and I've been using them in my own practice and with clients for over a decade. So powerful. And I'd love to talk a bit about those and how they work too. So go ahead and share a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
No. Again, had this huge experience with breathwork around the chakras a few years ago, and just realized, I've always realized the power of essential oils, and almost more importantly, like the power of intention and regular practice. And I wanted to, I've always wanted to, a ritual. That's exactly, and I really wanted to create something that people could do at home that made their practice special. You know what I mean? Like, this is my time, right? And
I'm a priority in my life.
Exactly. And also to bring chakras to everyday people, because like, what the hell are chakras, right? Some weird energy points. But everyday people can literally grab one of the balms or use all of them every day and just rub a little bit. So if they're feeling a little heartache or, you know, or let down, they just put a little heart balm on, for example. Or they want a little more psychic vision or clarity, they can just put a little third eye balm on. And the power of these, even more than I intended when I created them. So so I created the chakra balms. There's 7 of them, and each one is
this is the root. For those of you not watching, we're just showing little balm containers of various colors, and with they all have essential oils in, like 120.
There's 100 to 120 drops in each one, and I use 4 to 5 to 6 different blended oils in each one, and I make them in small batches myself.
That's the crown?
This is the sacral, actually.
The sacral, okay.
Spicy, sexual,
it is spicy.
sensual.
So a lot of people right now are working on sacral and solar plexus stuff. We're all working on relationships and self-love. There's the self-lovers right there. And the heart. That's
I'm going to say, by the way, it's a trip after dark, triple X.
bread. I
want to say I healed 20-year gallbladder pain using breathwork and these balms.
That's amazing.
And, I mean, miracle, I would say it is. The energy behind my solar plexus, but not feeling like I was enough, created this ongoing pain for 20 years. I would say every 2 to 3 months I'd have an attack. So that's amazing, really amazing.
So if folks are interested in learning more about the chakra balms, I assume you have a website for them?
Yeah, it's chakrabalms.com. It's BALMS.
BALMS. Great.
But it could be balm, because they're like the bomb.
Bomb. Yeah, it could be bomb.
I should register that too.
Yeah, we're going to like launch this into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
We're going to launch it over to Washington, D.C. to watch on right now. Impeachment hearings just started today. So thinking about self-love and caring for self, I think, you know, so many people have gone through so much. There's been this incredible shift with the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which felt like the longest retrograde ever. Everybody's feeling it in their lives right now. So much chaos. And this is the time right now for self-care. This is the time to pull ourselves back from all of our outside influences and sources and come back and be the bear, as I talk about resource yourself, nourish yourself, love yourself. You deserve the care and wellness that you would give to a loved one, right? So prioritize that in your life. Is there anything else that you want to share about your work or what you do that you'd love to have people know?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to reinforce this idea that change is possible, right? Like,
yeah,
even finding your purpose and your calling. Like, year after year after year, I just kept searching, and then eventually things show up. So yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to just not stop, not give up.
Yeah.
And the same with healing. For me, breathwork was the answer that brought all of this important healing that I needed for so many years. So keep the search, keep the quest, keep trying new things, and see what resonates with you.
I'm hearing retreats. Do you do retreats?
I'm developing a 4-day. I also do a breathwork teacher certification. So I'm developing like a master level 1, which will be 3 to 4 days.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
Thank you for reinforcing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, let's create it. And so for people who might be interested, now I know you work also out of the place that I work out of several days a week, Liberate Hollywood. And are your breathwork classes going to be offered streaming?
Yeah, I live streamed my first one right after your class Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
7 p.m. on Tuesdays. I'm not sure if it'll be every Tuesday that we're live streaming.
Okay. But folks can look at the calendar. If you go to liberatehollywood.com and look at the calendar, you can both find on the events page a link to each of the events. It isn't one link because each has to be a separate event for security purposes and access purposes. But you'll be able to find breathwork classes that are offered on the webinar button there, and you can see both his workshops and actually mine as well there. I teach a meditation every Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and I think mine's listed as breathwork and Ho'oponopono with Jay Bradley.
Yeah, and so what's your website so for folks can get in touch with you directly?
Yes, it's breatheonit.net.
I love that.
It's like think on it, meditate on it, but instead we're going to breathe on it.
Breathe on it. I love that. That's such a good conception, is that when we forget to breathe, we stop breathing, we don't pay attention to the bodies, we go right into our heads and we think on it. Yeah, it's so important that we actually feel on it and breathe on it, because that's where the wisdom is. It's not in the mind, it's in the body.
Yeah.
And when we learn to trust ourselves, when we develop our self-awareness, when we learn about how to heal our pain, we become the barometers of our future by learning how we are existing in the present. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say Instagram too. If you're on Instagram, I love Instagram. It's Breathe On It with J-A-Y.
Yeah.
And then of course chakrabalms.com if you want to check those out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I appreciate your time and all the beautiful work that you do.
You're doing great work too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you bet. All right, take care. Have a great week. You've been watching or listening to the Divine Insight Show.